Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. at UK time, no matter what it is, night, day, rain, shine, birthdays. It does not matter. Good morning to those joining us live. Good morning to those. Good morning. Good evening. To those joining us on catch up, whenever it may be, wherever in the world you are. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It means a lot. It means always everything. So thank you for that. And speaking of the chat box, good morning to those that have tuned in this Tuesday. Jimbo, good morning to you. Thank you. Martin Peekahoo. Paul Black Shine, we've got other Paul, we've got Johnny Maximius, Johnny, Matt G, Vala, Rob, we've got Damien, Amira, Louis, Stephen, Glenn, Lars, Morgie, Temi, we've got Roy, NSW, Carl, Red Star. We've got so many of you guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Thank you so many of your kind messages, certainly not being missed. Really very much appreciate them. And I'll make sure to read through as many of them as I can in post as well. But thank you for all the well wishes. It's very nice, and again, just continues to show the magnitude of this community that we've built here together. Yeah, thank you for all the kind likes on the videos. Of course, this international break challenge has continued onwards and continued strongly. Another 1K, another day achieved yesterday. We've got 4 days to go. Let's see if we can keep up this momentum. Let's hope that we can continue on with this challenge and trying to get 1K likes every single day of this international break. If we manage to do it, we'll be releasing the tickets for our live event early, which is fantastic to be able to do. So please do drop a like on today's video and help us to get to that magic 1,000 likes once again on yet another day of this international break. But we're getting closer, aren't we? We're getting very, very close to the end of this and to Arsenal returning to our screens. Let's go on to today's story, shall we? First of all, Katie McCabe winning the PFA WSL Fans Player of the Month. Fantastic month for Katie after she, of course, signed a brand new contract with the club in the summer and was nominated for the Women's Ballon d'Or as well. And it's just been a really good start. A fantastic couple of goals already under her belt as well. She only scores bangers and has continued that trend, that theme with the goals that she's scored already this season. For the month of October, she was instrumental in helping getting Arsenal's form back on track. So a very worthy winner of that award. Ukraine and Zinchenko were robbed, utterly and entirely robbed of a place in next year's European Championships after potentially one of the most ridiculous VAR calls that you will ever see. Towards the end of the game, it finished 0-0, which means, of course, Italy will qualify for the championships in a moment of stunning controversy. Cristante there, you can clearly see after Mudryk taps the ball beyond the Italian midfielder, completely taking out the Chelsea winger, and the referee waved the call away, and VAR decided not to intervene, and Mudryk, Zinchenko and Ukraine will not be part of the European Championships. I spoke to Zinchenko after the game with Burnley at the weekend, and it was very apparent from how he was talking about the magnitude of this game, what it would mean for the country, of course, considering the situation that the nation finds itself in. And it's a real shame, I think, that Italy will be there instead of Ukraine because of this moment. If it was on purely footballing merit, we might be able to understand. But to have such a moment waved away rather ridiculously, the VAR call here was utterly mad. Equally as mad, I think, as the England decision. Harry Maguire giving away a blatant penalty that was not given. We talk about how bad VAR is in England and how bad the officiating is in England, but I guess there is some, is there solace? Is that the right word? The fact that we are not, it's not exclusive that these VAR calls are to England as bad as they are. They are awful everywhere, and refereeing standards continue to be just so incredibly poor. But yeah, commiserations to Zinchenko and Ukraine on sadly not qualifying for the European Championships after being what I would describe as being robbed in this incident right at the end of the game, not getting that penalty call. Let's talk a bit about Barcelona, shall we? Because they are, according to a number of outlets in Spain, set to rival Arsenal for the signing of Martin Zubimendi, the Spanish international and Real Sociedad defensive midfielder. He's been called the successor to Sergio Busquets in the past, and it makes sense, therefore, that Barcelona are being linked with a move for La Real's kind of key midfield presence, and therefore it'd be unsurprising for them to go after him. I think that I don't see him necessarily ending up at Arsenal. I know there's been a lot of talk about Arsenal being keen on him and being a target they've had interest for a long time. And it's true, they have had an interest in him for a long time, but I think there's been a lot more made of it than there actually is in reality regarding the Spanish midfielder. It does make a lot more sense for Barcelona to be the side that would go after him and go and get him. And I think that potentially his destiny will see him end up in Catalonia and playing in the place of Busquets, who they've never necessarily been able to replace too effectively. They tried it with Frank Kessié. They've played Frank de Jong deep in the midfield. It's just never really worked out. But now it seems that if they can get Zubimendi through the door, that would be the perfect acquisition for that defensive midfield role in that team. And Arsenal instead, it seems, will be looking to go towards the likes of, well, we've talked obviously about Douglas Luiz. We've talked about Yusuf Fofana here. There's also other names being talked about as well. Andrea Fluminense, although there's suggestions that Arsenal are no longer leading the race for the Brazilian youngster. So there are names out there. There are suggestions that Ruben Neves could be the player that Arsenal end up going for. Only time will tell. And January, we will have to wait to find out what indeed the plan is from an Arsenal perspective. So let's wait for that and keep those fingers crossed that Arsenal can get a quality player through the doors this winter. And our headline story, according to Florian Plettenberg of Sky Germany, Bayern Munich are keen on signing Arsenal defender Takehiro Tomiyasu. Bayern have been in a state of real flux and change in their defensive area, trying to sign a number of players over the last few years, never really been able to nail down the right option. They've allowed players to leave, like Benjamin Pavard, for instance. And the fact that Tomiyasu can play in multiple positions, can play right back, left back, centre back, is obviously a very attractive kind of view, I suppose, of a player to be brought in. They've, I think, Kim Min-jae, of course, they signed from Napoli as well. The Korean international has added plenty of quality to that defence, and they're not done. They want more. And maybe Tomiyasu is seen as the guy to, I think, take that on. It's very interesting to think what we would ask for Tomiyasu. He was signed for about £20 million. How much money is Tomiyasu worth? You know, he's in his now mid-20s, 24 years of age, I think he is now, heading towards his prime. Has been playing and starting plenty of games for Arsenal at the top of the Premier League. I think that he's a very, very good player and a very valuable one as that. I'd be expecting upwards of £50 million personally for Takehiro Tomiyasu. People might say, what? £50 million? And I'm serious. Yes, the age profile, the length of contract still good. He's still got 2+ years on his deal, I believe, signed in 2021. And so therefore, I think that, be looking for upwards of 50 personally for Tomiyasu to try and sell him, because he's a very, very good player, very versatile player, very good age bracket. So certainly, I think that is the right way forwards for Takehiro Tomiyasu. I think that would be a good price. But I think the bottom line is I don't want him to go. I don't think we need to sell him. I think, as Darren says here, we can tell Bayern to jog on. I don't want to sell Tomiyasu. I think he's very difficult to be able to replace. I don't think you're going to be able to replace Tomiyasu with a player that can be as good as he is in so many positions. So my primary position on this is tell Bayern to do one. I don't want to see him leaving. I think I would rather him stay. £50 million can come through the door, and I'd say no. I would say no for that. So yes, it's a no from me to Bayern, and I'm certainly keeping Tomiyasu, who is, as Khan points out in the chat, our first choice left back. He is indeed our first choice in that position at the moment, I'd say. For any big game, Tomiyasu's starting there at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not letting him go. Not a chance. Right, let's go to part 2, shall we? And your questions right after this. Okay, let's jump into the chat box, shall we, and tackle some of your thoughts and theories, queries, and questions. First of all, let's do some housekeeping. Thank you so much, Marcus. Happy 21st again. Spend this on yourself. Thanks, mate. Very kind of you. Marcus has been one of our longest term listeners, big supporter of the channel, and of course, has been on the member show a number of times. Had the pleasure of meeting him at our last live event. Absolute gent. I very much appreciate your support as always. As can be said the same for Matt G, of course, as well. Prolific chat box member. Thank you so much for the kind donation, mate. Very kind of you indeed. And I hope that both Marcus and Matt will be again at our next live event in February, of which, fingers crossed, we can release the tickets for slightly early if indeed we can continue this like train. We've managed to succeed in 8 successive days of over 1,000 likes on the video. Let's make sure that we don't skimp on today, on Tuesday. It's the worst day of the week. My birthday falling on the worst day of the week. Mad, really. I've moaned about that day for goodness knows how long, and now this happens. So we've brightened up our Tuesday. Jimbo, thank you so much. Very kind of you as well, Jimbo. Another prolific chatbox member, a very committed part of the TGT family. Indeed. And old Dave gifting a membership. I wonder who it went to. Make yourself known in the chat. Tell me who it was that was the lucky recipient of old Dave's kind generosity for his membership. I'm very curious to know who managed to get the membership. How old am I now? I'm 20. I can finally say that I am 29. I'm not 28 because you are 28 until you turn 29, and now I am 29. So 29 is what I am. 1 year to go, and then we're in the mythical 30s. Scary, isn't it? I mean, I started doing this show when I was 22. Yeah, 22. I started doing this when I was 22. I started podcasting when I was 20. We've been nearly podcasting for 10 years now, kind of crazily, but very, very crazy indeed. Chris has been a member for 39 months now. A great achievement and a massive long-term part of our family here. Says, Patino is looking good for Swansea. I would rather that he came in alongside a Fofana, Rice, Fofana, Louise, and Patino. I'm happy with that, and happy birthday. Thank you, mate. I think Patino is continuing to show, he's specifically continued to show that promise and that talent that he's got, and hopefully, let's keep those fingers crossed that he can continue to do that, and that there is still a pathway. I asked Mikel Arteta myself in a press conference whether or not there is a pathway for him, to which he said there is always a pathway for players, and so the door is not shut on Patino potentially making his way back into the fold. I hope that certainly is the case. Dave says, Jesus, Tom, you were 19 when I joined the chat box. Absolutely. Alex says, Tom, happy birthday. What do you think of England going unbeaten in quotation marks in qualification? How long should Southgate be allowed to play his amazing, again in quotation marks, style of football? I think he should be given this tournament, and then after that, it's time for somebody else to take the reins, unless he wins it, I suppose. But I just struggle. I hope I'm proven wrong. I'd love England to win the Euros, but it's just difficult to see that happening. Thank you, Ray. Being very kind of you indeed. Thank you, Maximius. I'm on the right side of 30 still at the moment. Darren says, I wish I was 29 again. I can imagine. And Martin says, I'm 69 until Thursday next week. 70s is a good age. I'm sure you look great for it, Martin. I'm sure you do. Amira says, are you surprised by the lack of contract talks this international break? Why isn't with the England squad, but still nothing new on his contract? Nothing on Tommy's potential new deal either. White still is progressing well, to my understanding. Those talks are continuing. There's keenness on both sides to get a deal done. I'm not sure on Tomiyasu's situation. It's not something I've chased up personally yet. But certainly I know that the club really, really like him. They really appreciate him. He's a big part of the team. And I'm looking forward to seeing that deal hopefully announced at some point in the future, if indeed Arsenal look to try and do it. I don't see why they wouldn't. So there you go. Vala, thank you so much for the kind donation. My first super chat, Vala says, how will you enjoy the day? I think it's going to be a relatively quiet one. My in-laws are away on holiday. My parents are coming around this evening, and we're going out for a meal with my sister-in-law and her other half, and my niece for lunch. Italian, obviously, because that's the best cuisine that there is. So yeah, it's just a chill one today, and I'm on annual leave, so I can just relax and look forward to some good food, some good friends and family, and that's what I want in a birthday. then I've got a birthday thing later on with the missus this weekend. Actually, on the 25th, we're going out for my the official birthday present, and I got some good things planned in and around London, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Rich says, Tom, no one is making the left midfield position their own. Why not give Patino the chance? How risky could it be to throw him in for some cups in January and see how he fares? I don't think there's any intention at the moment for Patino to come back yet. That could change depending on what business gets done in January. But to my understanding, there's not been any rumours or any noise about him being recalled. He's doing very well. The club want to continue to see him doing well because if he returns in January, the likelihood is his amount of minutes will drop dramatically. So that's one to keep your eye on. Darren says, how much could Arsenal realistically get for Fofana? Doesn't his contract with Monaco finish in the end of June next year? It does, although I'm not sure if there's an option to include in that deal that might extend it to 2024. I think Arsenal should be looking if they can do a deal between 30 to 40 million pounds. That'd be great. We bid 25 million pounds on Douglas Luiz, remember, who had, a year left on his deal before signing a new contract. So I think, 30 million pounds for Fofana would be a very good deal for Arsenal to try and do. Chris says, Tom, would you take Graham Potter as England manager? Yes, I would, Chris. I think Graham Potter's, if given time, can be a good coach. And I think it's his philosophy and style of play that made him so successful at Brighton. Of course, it wasn't translatable to Chelsea because of numerous reasons. And it's just a chaotic mess of a club is Chelsea. But I would take Graham Potter as England manager. Yes, I do think as a coach, I think he's good. I think that would be a decent move for him. I think he's a better coach than Southgate. Justin says, happy birthday, Tom. I doubt that this will be enough to get you a pint in England, but it certainly is more than enough in South Africa. Enjoy your day. So, Justin, that's very, very generous, very kind of you indeed. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Very kind of you. And Nathan, thank you as well. Happy birthday. Keep up the good work. You're very welcome for the good work. And thank you so much for the kind donation as well. Really, really kind. Martin says, where are you going? Mamma Mia is the best Italian in Medway. I agree with you. It is the best Italian in Medway. And I was there on Friday of last week. Had a brilliant beef ragu. Always go for the specials there. It's a fantastic place. But we're going to a place called Vesuvius today, which I'm very much looking forward to. Classic Italian names of restaurants, is it Mamma Mia and Vesuvius? There's no volcanoes though. No volcanoes. Dave says, has anyone seen Chris Fung? No. I don't know what you're talking about, Dave. Is he? I think there's been a lot. I'm thinking then, who's the player? Who's Chris Fung? But I realise maybe he's part of our chat box. Louis says, all leagues and international games have poor referees. Is it just that they're all poor, or are we fans expecting different outcomes compared to the rules? Or is it just the inconsistencies? I think it's the inconsistency. I think, Louis, that we see, if it was a case of like the outcomes were just not up to our expectations every game, you wouldn't talk about inconsistencies. But because some are given and some aren't, it's got to be the latter. It has to be the latter, surely, without question. Has to be the latter. George says, careful, Tom, don't have the lasagna. I'll tell you what, I love a lasagna as long as it's not made by any Spurs cooks. That's all I can say. Martin says, I was at the other end of Rochester on Friday night, but it was at the Indian instead. I was in Rochester on Friday night, mate. You could have seen me. Derek says, happy birthday, mate. How do you think City and Liverpool goes this weekend? Opportunity for us to jump above them. Potentially, if there's a draw and we win, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? That would be absolutely perfect. So let's keep those fingers crossed that turns out to be the result. Spurs Villa as well. Let's hope for dropping points for both of those teams. I'd rather Villa one, of course. But a draw, I think, in both those games is the best for us. Marcus says, so Italian then. Plenty of salt. Not good for the shake. For you, shake. There is, you're right. Plenty of salt going on in the Italian space of rumours, but I think they get the seasoning just right in their restaurants. LB says, Tom, do you worry that this will be another crop of golden English players that will go wasted under another unserious manager? Of course I worry about that. Of course. Martin says, I was the one gifted the membership. Fantastic. It's always good to see that the long-term listeners and the really committed listeners like Martin, for instance, are those that are gifted the membership. So thank you, Martin. And thank you for those that donate them. Rich says, happy birthday, Tom. Have a couple of pints of tap water on me. Thanks for all your efforts over the last year, Rich. Thank you again. One of our most long-term and committed listeners to the group as well. Thank you so much, mate. Very kind of you, Rich, indeed. Marcus says, I am surprised that you said where you're going. Your local TGT fans might mob there. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think you overestimate that. It's I'll tell you what, I had a funny story of like there's a nightclub that those that live in Medway will know about called Casino Night Rooms. It is the worst club that there is. It's just awful. And I hadn't been there in a good like 5, 6, 7 years. And then I had some friends from university come down. And they were just, we had a few drinks in my back garden and they were desperate to kind of go out for a bit of a boogie. And so they were Googling like the nearest nightclub. And it is basically the only nightclub in like proper night. I say proper, yeah, as close to a nightclub as you'll get. And so I was dragged inside as a 28-year-old where everyone else is about 10 years younger than you there. And all of a sudden I just hear this guy saying, is that Tom? And I'm like, oh no. And then I sadly had to have a photo taken with somebody who was very nice. He's a very nice guy, but it's one of those where you're like, if there's a place that you don't want to be seen in, it's this just terrible nightclub. Of course it happened there. So that was like the worst case scenario. And then I got sent the picture the next morning on Instagram just to rub it in even further. Jameson says, happy birthday, Tom. Cheers from San Francisco. A pint on me when you visit, Jameson. That's very kind of you indeed. It's a city that I absolutely would love to visit. I've not been to the West Coast of America. I've only been to the East and to Illinois as well, of course, for Chicago. But the West Coast is definitely on a list of places that I'd love to visit. And hopefully one day I'll get to San Francisco. Maybe we'll do a live event, an Arsenal meetup in San Francisco. That'd be quite cool, wouldn't it? Marcus says, we've got to get 2,000 likes for the birthday boy. If not, Expressions will host the show. You're only going to encourage them not to like the video, Marcus, if you're going to get Expressions doing the show. Chris says Tom went to a discotheque. Temi, thoughts on the Saka debate on Twitter as to whether he's world class or not? Temi, Saka is one of the best right wingers in the world, and by definition, that makes him world class. There's not even a debate. He obviously is. I didn't even get involved because I found the extravagant reaches that certain sections of rival fans were going to try and justify him not being fan. I loved the contradictions that we started to see, people dragging up old tweets of people. I mean, Saka's obviously world class. It's just not even a debate at this point. So yeah, without a doubt. And Nick says, if anyone is going to ambush you, Tom, they need to bring an Arsenal-themed present. Yeah, that's the rule. You have to provide an Arsenal-themed present. ASC Till I Die, thank you so much. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, Chris. Rich said Saka tore apart the French defence on his own. He's a sensational player. Yeah, absolutely, he is. Nick, he loves the fans, makes him feel like a little celebrity. It doesn't. It's like, it's very humbling, you know, when people come up and say hello and things like that. And I love meeting our listeners, you know, so I love doing the live events and things like that. I'm awful in those scenarios, though. Yeah, I try my best. If you ever have met me in person, it's like I'm just trying my best not to be awkward. But a really great story actually the other day from what was it, the Burnley the Burnley game. Obviously I do those videos pre-kickoff for FL, or I did rather do those videos that Umar would sort out. And I was just finished filming kind of a pre-match video, and then this policeman walks up to me and says hello. And it turned out he was a listener. I thought he was in trouble. I thought I'd done something wrong, like I wasn't able to film there. Turned out the policeman was a listener. So yeah, that was very, very nice as well. Aditya has been a member for 10 months. Happy birthday, Tom. Gifting a membership to a lucky one on your birthday. Thanks, Aditya. That's very, very kind indeed. Let us know if you're the one that Aditya has gifted a membership to. Mafia, thank you so much for the kind donation. Very, very kind of you indeed. It can't be left behind. You can't, Mafia Boss. Again, one of our longest term listeners, very dedicated listeners as well. Grantley Pooh says, awful. You were such a good host at the live event earlier this year. Thanks, mate. That's very kind of you indeed. Richard, happy birthday, Tom. Enjoy your day, mate. Live the dream. Indeed. Got to keep pushing forwards. Stay focused. Stay doing what you're doing. Carl says, I was in a well-known Ilford nightclub years ago and Teddy Sheringham tried to chat up my female friend. She worked for Arsenal at the time. Guess what the outcome was? I think I can guess what the outcome was, Carl. I don't imagine it was too successful. At least I hope it wasn't. Mate. Jad says, should Fabio play instead of Havertz? It depends on the game, Jad, to be honest. I think that Fabio Vieira has got plenty of talent, but Havertz, of course, has shown. I think recently Havertz has been better than Fabio Vieira. Fabio Vieira started off the season pretty well, but Havertz, I think his recent performances have been better. So, yeah. Marcus says, are Bailey and Umar there to join you as a special end of show, or are you going to sing at the end of the show? I'd love to do a show that was just our Arsenal way, boys. That'd be great to do that one day. I hope that they both come along to the live event. I'll of course be inviting them. Let's go to many happy returns. Thank you, Walia. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Fuad. Thank you, Jad. Thank you to Johnny. Thank you. And Martin does point out, of course, that Vieira is suspended at the moment, which is a very, very good point. And so it's unlikely that we'll see him get into the team, I guess, for a little bit. Champions League, I guess he'll probably play in the Champions League games to keep himself fit and ready, can play in those Champions League games. So I guess Vieira, it makes sense to start those games. We've got a really important one against Lens, of course, coming up. We beat Lens, then we're in a very good position indeed. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I'm going to end the show there. I'm going to get on with today's events. But thank you so much for everybody that tunes in. Thank you for everyone that continues to support. Please drop a like on the video, of course, and help us to get to our next 1K every day challenge. And we're 4 days away from achieving this kind of crazy ambition that we've had since the start of the international break. So thank you to everybody. I'll be back, of course, tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 a.m. to give you the next show. We'll, of course, be doing a preview ahead of the game against Brentford, probably on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that one. But thank you to everybody that's listened in. Thank you to everyone that's joined up. It is very much appreciated. I hope that you have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of it. And I will see you again very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.